the reactions button in Teams. Just let me know in the chat, or you could unmute, whichever you prefer. Can you see my screen? Sure. If anyone can confirm.
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Ah, awesome, awesome. So getting started, I'll quickly give you a little background. Like Shivam already shared, I think currently, actually until very recently, was working with Pepsico in Europe. I probably start the other way around. I started my career in consulting with Thoroughgood Associates, moved to an early stage at tech startup, YC back now. Worked there for about a year. I was their first hire. So seen that end of the spectrum, right, very, very early. Did consulting, did early stage startup, and then moved to the other end of the spectrum with PepsiCo. I got a chance to move abroad, so directly moved to Europe. Very, very interesting journey there as well. Happy to share more on that as we as we go through this. But yeah, so I've seen a spectrum. Apart from community, apart from building side projects, um, then early stage startup, done late stage product. Many of you might have already heard about the product, folks. I'll drop a link in the chat section. If you are exploring product management, do check it out. Like Shivam shared, I think lots and lots of resources, a much larger community that you can be part of. We're in fact starting off the flagship program that we usually do called Insurjo. So in case you weren't part of it last year, do definitely check it out. This time we're going global, so do register as soon as possible. Lastly, I think I've dabbled in side projects. One of them that I'll be talking about today is called Indistractable. It is a two-member team, just the two of us, but we scaled it to 1 million downloads with $0 spent and zero employees. Right, so that's how I'd like to say. If any of you all are into productivity, do check it out. That's a quick background. I've probably just highlighted some of the notable ones, but all of this journey has had tons and tons of failures which aren't highlighted here. So just wanted to put out there that it hasn't been all rosy, but we'll talk about it more today. In today's workshop, I think I'll be going deeper into the product innovation process, right? How do you really build products that people want, people love? There's a framework called the Jobs to be Done. It's a very, very famous framework. Given today, most of you all are still in college, I might not go deeper into that. So we'll skip through the JTPD, but if at all, maybe I'll try to take a pause at one slide. I think it'll be too heavy for today's session. And very quickly, I will take a couple of slides. I know I have a detailed slide on the experimentation process, but what I will do is I'll just take a highlight. So we'll spend more time on the product innovation process, no time on JTPD, and a little time on the experimentation process, right? Quick highlights. That is what you will be covering, or we will all be covering over the next couple of minutes. But what are your expectations? Anyone has any questions to start off with? Anyone has any doubts? Keep this super interactive. I have a couple of questions in case we don't get a response, and I'll skip through all the questions in the beginning. No worries, and I will go um, deep into the session, right? So let me know if you have any questions to start off with. You can share maybe, hey, what are your expectations? Sneha says that she is exploring new domains as software, which is perfectly fine. Um, Sneha, all the best, I think, on your career path. Hope this helps and hope the last few sessions have been enriching for you. Anyone else, any expectations, any questions, feel free to share directly in the chat section. Nothing so far. Awesome. Probably we'll get started. In case you have questions, feel free to drop it in. First of all, I think I usually do this on Zoom. Akshay says he's here to learn GTPD. Akshay, unfortunately, we won't cover that in today. It's a little deeper. So I think for today's audience, it might be a little deep, but do join the cohort. I think we might cover it in that. Sahil says steps to finalize any product ideas you've got. Yes, I think you will get a framework for that today. Krishnan says I like to start a startup, so this helped me go ahead. Yeah, I hope this session will help that. Right. So first of all, how are we feeling? Right. So there is no React emoji, so put it in the chat section here. I usually use a Slido link or Zoom React emoji. Feeling? Are you guys excited? Are you guys bored? Are you guys tired after a long day at college? Are you curious to know more about this? Are you excited about product management? How are you feeling? Oh yeah, Indo Park match is going to start. It's going to be a very, very tough. But it's going to start in 20. I thought we had 45 minutes. Isn't it supposed to start at 8 p.m.? I was hoping I finished before the parkment because I know you don't want to miss it and I don't want to miss it. But yes, we'll try wrapping up as soon as possible. It looks like a lot of people are excited. And given we have a match around the corner, let's quickly go through. Right. So, kicking this right off, right, since it's about product innovation, think of your favorite companies and give me an example of a wonderful product innovation that didn't really kick off. What do you think? Just what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Many of you all might have come across this. Many of you all might have seen it somewhere online as a case study. Some of you all might have used it, right? Something that you think launched very well. Akshay says Park Plus. Park Plus still. Why do you think it failed? Actually, very very curious. Yeah, Krishnan, you're right. I think Google Glass is one of them. Akshay, I'd love to hear more on why you think Park Plus is not there. WhatsApp Pay is interesting. Yeah, I think I wouldn't say it's failed. I think adoption has been slower. Hopefully, you see a lot more adoption coming there. Apple Mouse is a very interesting one, right? Do you all remember the Apple Mouse where the charger was right under the mouse, right? So go check out. I think this is a very interesting one. Sahil, thanks for bringing that up. I also have a couple of examples, right? So what I'll do for today's session, I'll index very heavily on the first part, which is more interactive, right? Exactly like what you guys have been doing. Some interesting examples I also have, and we'll probably skip through like the theoretical parts, right? So we'll focus more on the fun stuff and the deep stuff. We'll keep it for another day where there's no India-Pakistan match, right? So let's get started. Anyone? I think maybe the audience here today is too young to remember this. I'll quickly show you a bunch of these. Do you recognize any of these? Let's see who recognizes what. Go for it. I should have numbered them, but maybe I usually do it once. Like I know there's a slight delay in the time, but let's consider this as one. You can see my mouse. Can you guys see my mouse? Yes. Okay. So let's consider this as one,
Yes, sir.
two, three, four, five, six. Yeah. Is that okay? I'll probably number it for the next time I do this. But one, two, three, four, five, six. Okay. So let's start off. Just put the number and take a guess on what is what, and then we'll discuss. I think someone already guessed Google Glass. So one, two, three, four is done. Many of you all know about Google Glass, so I'll skip that story. But I'd love to tell you some stories about the other ones, right? So take a wild guess. Anyone wants to guess what this was, or this one's fairly easy. I think you all can see the logo and makeup. This one is very interesting. This is also a very, very big company. Tell the number, right? So one, two, three, four, five, six, five. Four is already guessed. So all the others are left. First one I think is a tablet, but guess which one? It is a tablet. Amazon smartphone. Yes, six is correct. That is Amazon Fire. Facebook Home is done. You're right. One, two, three, four, five is done. So four, five, six you guessed. What is one, two, three? HP tablet is correct. So two is done. One and three. Which one do you think is what? Anyone? Anyone wants to take a wild guess? Can you see my screen? I think screen sharing went off. Let me know if you can still see my screen.
No, no, the screen is not visible now.
Let me share it again. Can you see it now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so now I have a laser as well. So let's talk about each one in detail. No one wants to take a guess. Anyone wants to take a guess? Aniba, can you see my screen now? You guessed most of it. I want you guys to take a wild guess at one and three. This is one, this is one, and this is three. Anyone wants to take a wild guess? Nintendo prototype. Yes, it was close. You're close. Akshay says, what is the Facebook home? I'll tell you the stories on each one of them. In fact, let me start quickly on the first one, right? Uh, Many of you all, I think it's way before your time, but this wasn't Nintendo. This was Sony. It's called the Sony Airboard. You can check it out. I know it was way before your time, so I don't expect you to know it. But think of iPad, but like I said, I think way before your time. Anyone wants to take a guess why this didn't work out? What do you think? Just take a random guess. Compare it to the iPad. Okay, let's focus on the new one. I'll tell you, right? This one essentially, it was very, very expensive. And before the iPad launch, in fact, there was no customer education. Yeah, this came way before the iPad. So iPad wasn't really the market leader. Essentially, it was too early to the market. Cost was too expensive. And because there was no market awareness, right? People didn't know what an iPad was. Today, yes, you know an iPad, you know what tablets are, right? That time no one was. So the entire customer education was way, way, way too expensive. So like Harsh said, it was way ahead of its time. And maybe yes, no content to support it, right? That's a great point, right? This one, like you shared, very, very similar. This was the HP Touchpad, right? And this was supposed to rival the Apple iPad. iPad had already come by that time. But guess what? This was in the market for just 7 weeks, right? Imagine working hours and hours and days and months on a product like this, right? Imagine if you're a product manager, you launch something like this, and because of the market response, you have to pull it off in 7 weeks, right? So, anyone wants to take a guess what happened? Similar to the previous one, it is timing is one of them for sure. But another challenge here was the operating system, right? So sometimes, and why I'm sharing with you all the focus on what are the different kind of problems here, right? One common point was maybe the timing. Previous one, cost was too expensive. Here, maybe there was some tech glitches, right? The operating system was not too friendly, right? And by that time, the Apple iPad 2 had already launched, which was very, very smooth, right? Thinner, probably design was amazing. It was faster and performant. So when you're in a market where there's a much better product, if you're launching an inferior product, uh, and it has nothing new to offer, then at that point, how do you differentiate, right? At back in the day, again, too young for your time, but there was a OS called the Web OS, right, software, which these guys had brought up, but the OS itself flopped, right? So this did not help their situation. Um, I will go through this. Now I want you guys to really, really think hard. Take a wild guess. What do you think this is? You guessed everything else. This is the only one you missed. What does it look like? Android's version of the iPod, very, very close, Harsh. Sahil, yes, you're correct, right? It's in the music space. You're right. Which company do you think? Okay, let's break this down. Which company do you think um, invented or worked on this? Let's take a guess. Nokia, no, that's not right. But big company, yeah. Sony, Nokia, no. This is I'll give you a clue, right? It's none of these. It's an Apple competitor for sure. In terms of, yeah, it's an Apple competitor. So you're close there. Many of your um this company had launched a phone as well, right? Yes, absolutely right. So Govind, what is the company behind the one that you mentioned? What is the company? Akshay, Govind, you're close. What's the company? Windows correct, but what's the company? Correct, right? Harsh got it. This is Microsoft. Classy design, right? If imagine they launched it today, I think I would have bought this, right? Maybe even equal to what an iPod looks. The design is classy. Tech wise, they've done a great job. But what it lacked, just like the phone, right? Many of you all might remember the Windows Phone as well. Amazing piece of hardware, but this didn't click, right? This was called the Microsoft Zune, right? Go check it out. In fact, this model was launched in November of 2006. Um, this mainly failed again. Again, the common denominator is the timing, right? This is what we've seen across all three. This again is the timing. Second main important part, what they missed out on, is at that point of time, iPods were a rave, right? These guys didn't do sufficient marketing, right? This is another common denominator. Start listing down these common denominators. I think someone asked me, "Hey, how do I know what I'm? How do I validate ideas?" Right? Of course, today you get to know all this. When a product manager working on these products was launching, they probably thought each of these was a $1 billion category, right? Which It looks like it was, right? But in the retro is where we can, break down, look at these as case studies and learn from them. So what really they missed out here was the sufficient marketing. Great product, right? But missed out on the marketing wave. Next up was the Google Glass. Does anyone want me to tell? I think many of you already know this, so I will skip through. But if you want to know more, I'm happy to share. Anyone wants to take a guess at? Everyone knows this is the Facebook Home. But what am I talking about? Anyone has any clue on this? Actually, today I think we'll just spend time on the examples. I think this is interactive enough. I have a couple of more examples which we'll go through. But does anyone want to take an example? Why do you think the Facebook Home? There was a certain real estate very, very close. You're right, right? It was probably because of real estate. But I'll give you clues. Now start thinking, right? There was a time in Facebook, and this is, I think, Chamat has, many of you might follow him on Twitter, but he's spoken about this very extensively on Twitter and maybe a couple of blogs as well. He mentioned that at some point of time, the growth in Facebook was plateauing, right? This was when they were probably US only, probably iOS only, or had just started Android. Um, that time, what they started doing, to elevate their growth, they started moving into vernacular. That's when you see today. Now, for example, if you're in a particular state and you open Facebook, I know many of us don't open Facebook anymore, but and also it's called Meta today. But let's take, all of us know it as Facebook. So if we open it, it shows you in your regional language. It could be a login. For example, I'm currently in Bangalore. If I open Facebook right now, it will show me a login screen which is in Kannada, right? So they've started doing localization, and that was a huge, huge, huge growth lever. You can read about it, right? But what happened? There was a parallel team working on the homepage integration, right? They were trying to revamp this, right? So Facebook's new product for mobile version of Facebook Home, it flopped. Reason being, the team that was working on it was largely US based. They were building it for the iPhone users, right? Initial set of users, especially if you see US as a market, is very, very iPhone driven. So that's the target market they were focusing on. Parallel team focusing on growth, going for Android. But this team has been focusing primarily on the iPhone users, right? And imagine on one side, because of the larger markets, the larger growth has come from Android, right? In countries like India. So essentially, the growth that came through came from the eastern part of the world. And if you know, India has grown largely mobile, right? Many of you all might have seen this statistic. India has grown largely mobile. We skipped the entire web generation and gone largely on mobile. Android and mobile is a huge use case in India. That team had been working primarily on mobile, but for iPhone, right? So the entire interface that came out, and many of us maybe back then, even I don't remember what version this was at, but they enjoyed using features like your widgets, your folders, etc. And all of this had been scrapped up from the iPhone mobile app, right? So when these new users have been using something specific, uh, come to realize that hey, on my new screen, right, which was what was called Facebook Home, that doesn't have any of this. They suddenly saw a huge decrease in the number of users coming in, right? Because all the users didn't enjoy this entire application. Many of you all might be preparing for PM interviews, so there's this entire section of case study or the RCA round that they call it, which is a root cause analysis. It will give you a problem statement like this, right? For example, one famous one is suddenly you're a PM at YouTube, you notice that there is a sudden decline in the usage of the YouTube app, right? This is a very famous problem statement. And this is exactly how you need to go on breaking down the problem statement, figuring out what could have gone wrong, right? This is something that I'm sharing something that actually happened, right? And this is how you break it down. This is something that actually happened. They had to roll back this entire feature and then figure out, okay, we'll go back to the whiteboard, think what they could do for Android users, and come back with a new home. So this was really interesting. And imagine these are all billion-dollar companies we're talking about, right? Lastly, we have the Fire. I think many of you all know about the Amazon Fire phone, which launched really, really well. But unfortunately, 2 months after its release, in fact, customers gave this phone a 2.6 out of 5 stars, right? So you can think of this as a forgettable or mediocre experience for a lot of people. But one thing you need to note are these are not just early companies. All examples that I'm giving you here are Fortune 500 companies. These are very, very large companies, right? Um, so think through. Akshay just shared a screenshot in the chat section. Akshay, anything, any questions that you have, anything I can help you with? let me know, right? Keep this interactive. But all I want to tell you is that many of you all might, like, I think someone shared in early on that, hey, starting up, what should I focus on? The whole idea of this is there are billion-dollar companies, there are product managers who have unlimited resources, but in the retro, they've still not been able to launch something that we feel could have been a billion-dollar category, right? So there are lots and lots of reasons why startups can fail or products can fail, and these are something that you can take care of, right? So you saw different examples here. One thing I want to tell you is, okay, we discussed a lot of software products, or we spoke about a lot of tech products, right? Product management is not just that. And history of product management, if you see, came from retail, came from FMCG, right? These were called as brand managers who actually brought in um, you can take screenshots, no problem. Or there is a recording here as well. But if you're taking notes, do share them with me as well. I'd love to check them out. Or if you're posting it online, do tag me. Um, but yeah, so this one, anyone wants to take a guess? What do you think? This is the Burger King status fries. What do you think went wrong? Right? Just keep this as a discussion between you and me. Imagine if you were to catch up over coffee and we're just brainstorming. What do you think could have led to the Burger King status fries failing? I'll tell you the year when this was launched. So think about 2013, right? Um, what do you think went wrong here? The name itself. Okay, if I don't see five responses or five people responding to this, I will take a pause. So let's see all of you interacting a little more. Rajat says it's too experimental. Um, most of new products you need to experiment, no? Expensive in taste. Hmm. You're right, actually, too. Expensive was one of the points for sure. Govind, can you tell me a little more about product expansion? Customers are already happy with McDonald's fries. That's a fair point. Away from the brand image. Now you're very, very close. Actually, you're very, very close. Kitchen formula compared to McDonald's expansion. Okay. Kitchen formula is also very close. Somewhat you're very close. Trishanu, you're right. Right. So I'll tell you way back in 2013, Satis fries was an interesting concept, right? It was supposed to be a healthier alternative to the regular fries, right? So this was supposed to absorb less amount of oil. But like someone mentioned earlier on the chat section, this turned out to be much costlier way back in 13, right? This is almost a decade ago. And it did not really talk to the customer's needs way back in the day. Today, yes, we are all a little more conscious. Back then, people, and this is a very American concept, right? People love, and back in the day, if you see lots of these posters, etc., were people enjoying the burger, people enjoying the fries, people enjoying a can of Coke, right? So people prefer fries because they taste good, not because they're healthy, right? You need to think about what the customer is, what persona are they in. Today, yes, the market has shifted. There's a lot more focus on, okay, hey, is this healthier? And maybe that's why I see a lot of these chips packet now saying, okay, we are baked, maybe, right? And that is selling today. But this was a decade ago, right? So this product was in fact discontinued a year within a year, and maybe today if they relaunch it, it could probably kick into the market. But that's what I mentioned, right? It's not just tech products. This is very, very much in every retail product, right? And what it bakes down is to the customer needs, the market needs, right? Anyone wants to take a guess at what this might be? I think for today's session, I'm going to do a lot of these examples and then stop for Q&A. Let's keep it super interactive. I'm not going to bore you with a lot of technical stuff. Colgate Health Food, very, very close. So it is Colgate and some food. This was called the Colgate Kitchen Entree, right? So people naturally link the Colgate name to toothpaste. What's the first thing that comes to your mind is toothpaste, right? Um, Imagine a brand that does toothpaste. Yes, of course, they were trying to expand the product line, but people were not able to imagine a toothpaste brand to accept a frozen meal, right? And in your mind, you're like, hey, Colgate frozen meal, will the taste be like? You can imagine even when I talk about it, I can get the Colgate taste in my mouth, right? So, do I want to eat that? Maybe no, right? So, you need to think about, hey, okay, product expansion is great, but am I going in the right direction, right? So, think about another line of failure. First, we spoke about, and we've discussed multiple examples so far, but what I wanted to start focusing now is the lowest common denominator. Each of these examples somewhere connected but also have different points of failure, right? And these are learnings that we can only get in the retro. Way back in the day, it's impossible for you to know, right? If no one takes these bets, we will not have any innovation coming out in the market. We will not see any progress, right? So all of them probably trying, getting to. Then there might be some product that works. They double down on that, but multiple such things which do fail. That also enables you to take the risk, take the experiments, and it's okay to fail, right? So exactly like what Harsh said, that this product was far away from the brand image, and just that thought in people's mind didn't allow them. Anyone wants to take a guess at this? No guesses? Krishna says nope. This is Cheetos. What do you think this is? I purposely made the image a little tinier so that it gets a little harder, or else you can make out what it is. Cheetos stick. Yes, it is a stick, but what stick do you think this is? Take a screenshot and try zooming in. Anyone wants to take a wild guess? What do you think this is? No one? Take a screenshot and zoom in. Akshay worked for 3 years in Pepsico. Guess Cheetos parent company. Okay, I'll tell you what this is. Okay, Amoth got this. It is Cheetos Lip Balm. Absolutely. And I'll be honest with you, I think I've probably enjoyed a lot of, yeah, I think a bunch of you all have got it. I've enjoyed Cheetos a lot, but applying it to my lips and smelling like cheese all day, I don't think I would enjoy that. And stop and think for this for a second, right? It is a fact that when we're eating Cheetos, there's a lot of dust around us, right? So imagine this: if you had to apply it to your lips, and it's all over your place. It's on your hand. It's in your keyboards. Sometimes we touch a face. So it's all over the place. I have no idea who the brand manager was, how they thought of this, and how did this even come to market. To be honest, uh, but yeah, this is just to tell you that I think not everything is perfect. And like you expected, the result was exactly what you thought. It was unable to stay on the shelf for very long. I don't know details about. I think this is what is public. I don't have any other details that I can share. But I think this was probably one of those decisions that the brand manager will regret for a very long time. And I'd love to sit down with him or her to understand how did this go to market or what was the thinking. Maybe they did have a user persona, but the next four are something that I love to share. This is a competitor brand, but all of this disclaimer is in the public domain, so I'm not sharing any proprietary information. That is just a legal disclaimer. But I'd love to share with this, particularly because there's always a rivalry, right? So these are all four Coke products, right? Anyone wants to take a guess which one is which? Start with this. I'll tell you a little more, right? Each one has a very unique story. This was way before your time, so I don't expect you to guess it. This was way back in 1985. And back then, I think if you all Google it, yeah, Trishanu says this was the new Coke. Trishanu, what about this one? Anyone wants to take a guess? I'll wait for a second. I think you might get this as well. Okay, a lot of you all know this. It is the I think this is a very premium. I think this is a case study that has been out there for long. Dasani, in fact, and Coca-Cola spent more than 10 million pounds worth of marketing efforts on Dasani. So it's a very, very expensive failure for them. What happened here was in Europe, especially, I think people drink tap water, right? It's not like how it is in India, and it's supposed to be clean, right? Way back in the day, I think bottled water as a concept, this was premium bottled water, right? So imagine taking something for um, I'll convert it, right? In India, taking something worth 3 rupees, right? Imagine if a liter of water is 3 rupees. Clean, fresh drinking water is 3 rupees, right? Imagine packaging that for 100 rupees and selling it, right? Today, yes, yeah, there are premium brands and people buy it, but back in the day, I think this message didn't go out too well. You're essentially yeah, exactly right. There are a lot of Himalayan water today, but imagine a Kinley or a Bisleri selling you something like this for like 30x or 300x, right, of what water costs today. Uh, Imagine the 10 rupee water bottle that we get, right, half a liter, 10 rupee. Imagine tomorrow if that is worth 300 rupee, right? All of us would be shocked, right? So that is what happened. And second one, what happened was the amount of bromate in this was very, very high, right? So these are two causes which really caused them a lot of problem. And this is a very, very popular public story of how this failed. This should have been really, really checked. Bromate, for those who don't know, the potentially cancer-causing ingredient, right? To make it a mineral water, they added bromate, but didn't really work out. So that is an interesting one. Anyone wants to take a guess at what this last one is? I have one more actually. Louis Vuitton, Armani, all the same principle. Trishanu, really, really interesting question, right? Would you say Louis Vuitton, Armani, all of them go by the same principle, but they didn't bring out a poor man's product, right? So if you think of water, water is essentially a need, right? It is not a want. Most of the products that Armani, etc., bring are luxury brand products. It is more of wants than needs. Also, this was way back in the second cause, like I said, was also because of bromate, where it had been deemed illegal to sell this, right? So that was one of the major challenges. Um, Samad guessed this right. It is the coffee flavored Coca-Cola. Today, I think it's a rage. Reason being, I think both brands have now trying to go into healthier alternative, going into hot beverages, going into different stuff. Um, Way back in the day, I think it was just before its time. If you ask me personally, I think something like this was just before its time. It should have been probably in today's day, it would have clicked really, really well. But yeah, it just didn't make it to the market at the right time. Right. Last one, again, I think I'm probably doubling down on Coke. Anyone wants to guess what this is? It's not too clear from the product, but I'll tell you this was called the Coke C2, right? Um, it was a very interesting brand manager who thought that, hey, if we target men in the ages of 20 to 40 and give them Diet Coke, that is something that they want to become fit in, right? But what happened was when it was launched, what they realized much later was that men thought Diet Coke was a very feminine trait, right? And that's the reason many of them didn't end up buying Diet Coke. So it is understand the personality of the user, right? And Akshay said the match has started. So Akshay, I would agree with you, and that's probably the reason I will take a pause here. Right, I wanted to spend a lot of time on this, mostly because it allows me to keep it a lot interactive. Most of the other slides are a lot more theoretical, so I'll take a pause here. What I will do is I will take some questions from you all. I know most of you all are still in college. If you have any questions around, hey, how do I break into product? We spent a good 40 minutes expressing a lot of examples around why products fail. So I will come back and maybe I'll wrap up with 5 minutes around, hey, if you're building a product, what is the experimentation framework? Keep the theory in between. Maybe I'll take a pause for 5-10 minutes. If you have any questions in general around product management, doesn't really have to be with the slides so far. I've curated this one session for you, and I will wrap up with a summary. Anyone, any questions around product in general? It could be anything, right? It could be something you're working on. If you want to share, we could discuss that as a case study. We could, yeah, happy to take that up. Rajat says, what is the best way for product internships? College scene isn't that great. Actually, I have another deck on this. Let me see if I can find that. Probably bring up. I have like a, actually, give me a second. I have like a cheat sheet, which I think might be super useful. Stop share. Shivam, that's okay, right? Do you want this to be specifically for product innovation, or is it okay to, share? What do you suggest?
Yeah, yes, sir. Whatever you feel right. Like, but our audience wants like some framework experience.
Sorry.
So whatever you feel right is okay, but like our audience wants some like insights about JTBT framework and
JTBD framework is a little heavy for you all today. Honestly, I would love to share it, but let me know if there are more people in this. I think for the early audience, might not be super useful. It usually is something that will help you once you start working on a bunch of product. I'm happy to cover it. I've probably prepared slides also, so I don't have a problem covering it. But let me know. Like we can. I'm happy to take it. If there are more people interested in that, I'm happy to cover that.
okay, okay. Then like you continue the session, we'll share the resources to our audience.
Sorry.
We'll share the resources of the framework to our audience.
Yeah, that's the best. I feel right. Like let's keep this interactive. Let everyone have fun. I will quickly. I think someone asked me a question on the product internship. I have a slide on this. I thought I'll just share this. Let me know when you can see my screen. This is a part of another session that I usually do, but let's curate this. Can you see my screen? You can see my screen?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's usually a six-step crack the PM interview framework that I usually suggest, right? Since many of you are in college, I thought I'll spend 5 minutes on this. Um, this is not a they're not the only way. Like disclaimer, there are lots and lots of different ways, but there's a structured approach as to what you can do. For many of you who are doing it for the first time, right? Uh, Akshay says, can we do theory and JTB in some other session? Happy to. Akshay, I think we'll do that, right? We'll create another session for that. But this might be really useful for a lot. So just note it down. I'll probably, there's also a large, I think, bunch of slides that I have here. I'll quickly just wrap up everything in a summary slide. Let me see how, yeah, there's not much, right? So think of this as firstly, it is important for you to know what companies you want to go to. And I'll tell you why I've kept this as the first step. Many of us don't think about this, right? I remember when I was way back in college, I honestly didn't even know what product management was. I think you guys are doing fantastic just by understanding what product management, you got a head start in this, right? But now I'll also give you the other side where it is super competitive. Many of you all might already know this. APM, good APM opportunities, lots of people trying, right? The market has changed, right? So it is important for you to know which company you want to go to. You all are still in college, so figure out, hey, are you okay working with an early stage company? Do you want to work at a mid stage company? Do you want to grow, or do you want to work with, fast growing startups? Do you want to work with MNCs? Do you want to work with consulting companies? Do you want to work with FANG? Where do you want to work, right? Each of these have a different path to getting into it. I'll give you a hack also. Now that you've shortlisted your company, say you shortlisted 5 different set of companies, go to LinkedIn. If you have the premium plan, take the premium plan. If not, on the free plan itself, go to the people section. In that there are filters. Now each of these 5 companies that you've chosen, filter for that one single company, search for APM or PM, and see what has that trajectory been, right? Many times you'll notice. Now for example, maybe all of us on this call, or many of us in this call, want to get into like a Facebook, Apple, Microsoft, for example, right? Just give me an example. The path to getting into that will be very different from, say, a great senior product leader is starting up tomorrow and hiring for an APM, right? Many of us miss out on this. I wish lots and lots of people understand this, because this will make everything else a lot easier, right? Everything else is there on the internet, right? If you just search for how to break into product management, you'll get Lenny's guide on the first page, right? Take that, and it has a much more structured path. But this is one point I think that is missing there. Um, and by doing the hack that I told you, just go on LinkedIn, see what the path has been, right? Some of these opportunities are probably after B school, right? So how much ever you try, it's going to be a little difficult for you, right? So suppose you want to get into something. Many of them ask me, hey, in fact, I have a very popular article on the top 15 APM programs, right, across the globe, right? And this has got, I think, more than 150 200,000 views. It's a Medium article. So because of this, I get so many inbound saying, sir, I'm in India and I want to get into Facebook RPM program, right? Simple thing, I tell them the same thing. Go to Facebook, go to LinkedIn, do the shortlisting, select this role, see who from India has gotten in. Very, very few opportunities. The reason being, it is based on your visa. It's not you. You can prepare the hardest. There are some of them who cracked the London roles for say Google, etc. Right? No one yet that I know for Facebook. So you can do that research, right? By reaching out to me, yes, I might know something, but you need to take an easier path. You might prepare amazing, but if you don't have a visa and if that is the criteria the company is using, it's not your fault, right? So have some amount of research that you do here. Shortlist this. If at all you want to go for some early stage opportunity, mid stage opportunity, there are different ways to get in, right? At that time, a lot of questions that I get are, hey, do you want to? Is an MBA really important, right? A lot of people ask me this, right? This will tell you. Go to LinkedIn, see the background. Are a lot of people coming into that company doing an MBA and coming? Then maybe that is a better opportunity. I'm giving you the easiest path. I'm not saying, okay, hey, this is necessary or that is necessary, but this is a very data driven approach to this, right? Next part is resume, right? This is the easiest thing you can do, to be honest. Today, just by sitting down for 2 days, you can make a killer resume. Ensure that the basics are at least covered, right? So many resumes, at least from sophomores and early folks that I get, is that guys, you mess up your spelling mistakes, you mess up on your format, you mess up on a bunch of things which no one expects, right? In today's day and age, it shouldn't happen. Now that there are tons of resources, there are many, many websites that help you do it. All of y'all can download Grammarly, right? So these are small mistakes that shouldn't happen, ideally. Yes, it happens, but then that also shows your attentiveness, right? Your attention to detail is something that comes out of the resume. So try as far as possible not to make any spelling mistakes, any grammatical errors. Yeah, there are tools online that help you like fix this for free, right? So this is something that I consider super important. At least ensure that the basics are covered here, right? Third one, the PM interview prep. Again, there are tons online. What I would like to highlight here is the product management skill set is very different from a product interview skill set, right? Consider these as two separate things. Some people think that, hey, if I prepare really well for interviews, I'm a great product manager. No, right? It's very different. And someone thinks that, hey, if I build like the side projects and if I have a great portfolio, maybe I'll kick ass at interviews. Very different skill set, right? So building this will give you building experience. Interviewing will give you interview experience. Separate out the two and prepare for both, right? Again, lots and lots of interview prep resources, right, online. So don't worry about that. You can check out in Sergio, you can check out a bunch of books out there. Fourth one is mocks, right? One thing like a lot of people miss out on is thinking that, hey, I can kick ass at interviews directly. It's just practice like any other, right? There are tons of platforms you can do there. There are tons of communities you can go practice mocks with each other, right? There might be your classmates, your batchmates who are preparing. Two of you all sit and do it together, right? But definitely do 10-15 mocks. Then maybe you can apply at companies that you don't really want to go, but that interview experience helps you as a mock, right? And then start applying for the company that you really want to, right? I would keep the fifth point as, lots of these are in brackets, so these are parallel slash optional things to do. Once you have all this sorted, I would say these are prerequisites, right? Suppose you building a network is amazing, no doubt about it. Building a great portfolio page is amazing, do it. Cold emails is a great concept. I've seen young kids get great opportunities this way. All of these are optional skill set, but all of this are accelerators or enhancers, right? If at all your skill set at interviewing is not great, you might not crack the interview. So a network or a showcase or a cold email will get you a foot in the door. Or what you might miss out on once you get the foot in the door, how do I maximize my opportunity, right? So it's equally important to have all those four sorted. Then yes, all these are excellence, right? A network will help you get a foot in the door. If you have a great portfolio page, you might get something inbound. Cold emailing is another great hack, especially useful for early stage to mid stage startups, right? Lastly, I think if you've been doing this multiple times and you've still not been able to crack an opportunity, rinse and repeat. If you've done it thrice and you're still not able to break in, then DM me. I'm happy to help you. But this is something that I think has worked for a lot of people. I've just tried to put it in a checklist format to help you through. Right. So I hope this helps. I know I have a couple of more slides on this. I'll quickly go through. Bunch of ways that you can be the top 1% candidate even before you interview. Right. Ensure that you research about the company, you prepare something that you can send over in advance, publish your work online. That helps you get a lot of inbound, and learn how to reach out cold, right? That's a skill set. Just Google it, you'll be able to get this fit. Be over prepared. I have a bunch of points here, and you can take a screenshot of this. I think this should help. But couple of resources as well, a bunch of books. Take a screenshot of this if any of you love reading. Do check this out. We've launched in Sergio. This is the second part of it, starting on September 10th. So sign up for this, share it with folks who you think might be interested. But yeah, hope this answers your question. Hope this helps. Let me know if you have any other questions on that. I will take another question. Best way. Awesome. Can we, Raja, tell me if this helps, but I will move on to the next one. Can we do the theory and JTPD? Yes, we will do it in another section. How to break into PM as a sophomore? Harsh, I think I answered your question via the slide. Let me know if that helps. If you have more question, I'm happy to take it. Where can we learn frameworks? Nishant, I will cover it in another section. Digital products or food items, what are common factors that apply to all? Krishnan, great question. Maybe I'll just show you this slide. Right? This is for startups and this is something that is there online, but just think of something parallel for products, right? Market need is something that we saw as a lowest common denominator. Startups run out of cash, and this can happen at your project as well, especially at a time like this, right, where you're seeing a downturn in the market. Third could be the right team, right? Imagine if you're going into building a deep tech product, you don't have the right team. Sometimes it is just out competition, right? You might have a great idea, but you're not able to execute it as well. Pricing, we saw a lot of the product failures were due to it was very expensive in the market. Product wasn't good enough, business model wasn't good enough, marketing wasn't good enough. You ignore your customers, timing wasn't good enough, right? Sometimes, again, especially for startups, is disharmony on the team, a pivot not going right. You lose out of steam, right? Lack of passion here. Location or geography isn't right. And investor interest. This is mostly for startups, but these are some of the points that I think might help you here, right? Um, Last couple of questions that I see here. Do changing UIs of apps often have the growth of product? For example, consider you have Zomato to change quite often. So, Shanu, very, very nuanced question. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer here. Of course, you're trying to improve the UI, right? So, changing UI, I'd say you're trying to improve the UX, not so much UI. You're trying to improve the user experience, and as a result, yes, the interface or the user interface is changing many times, which leads to maybe real estate changes, new products coming in, new features coming in, new markets coming in, which enable maybe growth of the product or growing something else for sure, right? Samaj says he's planning to build a side project on a bookmark classifier. How do I go ahead? Samaj, very nuanced, maybe happy to take that one to one. Akshay says, can you please share the slides? We can read it. Yeah, happy to do that. I'll share it with Shivam post the session. Right. So folks, yeah, we're right on time. Uh, if you have any other questions, happy to take that, or else all of us can go enjoy the match right after this. Shivam, back at you.
So that was very insightful. Like the examples which you gave were like very simplified. So I'll ask the audience if they have any more questions, like final call. Otherwise, then we can wind up.
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. Actually, it's nice to hear from you that there you talk about so many failure product, right? But have any product that failed once, but they make it success, and what they did difference from take the failure product to success, and that's I think that's very important to know.
Krishnan, great question. I think this, Krishnan, this is you, right? You're talking,
Yeah,
right? Yeah, I think
yeah.
this is a great question. I'll give you a very simplistic answer to this. This is a story of every single product, right? I'll
Mhm.
retrace this question and ask you, tell me one product that made it perfect on the first launch, right? And you will probably have an answer that is close to zero. Every single product that you see successful today is something that has come as a result of multiple iterations. Yes, maybe some of them pivot 180 degrees, some of them pivot by 5 degrees, right? But most successful products that you see launch in a market, take some learnings back, go back into the market with larger learnings, right? So if you talk to me about, hey, a product that launched in the market, didn't do too well, but relaunched in the market, I think lots of them have done this, right? For example, Uber started as Uber Black, right? Or Amazon or Flipkart started with just books, right? If you go back to Jeff Bezos and Sachin Bansal, say like, hey, we just focus on building books. Today, what does Amazon do, right? Right from AWS to selling everything that you can purchase online to going into B2B to they are now maybe even bunch of these drones that they're trying to do internally. They have tons of things that they're working on, right? I think as a startup, I think you'll always see that, hey, you go in with certain insight, but you iterative get to a point where the final product is a certain pivot. Now whether this is a degree of pivot or a 180-degree pivot or 360-degree pivot is from product to product.
Okay. So it's a keep underworking. Even if failure, we have to work under the product to improve it, right?
100%. I think just be very, very, very close to the market. Understand what
Mm.
your customers want from you, right? When you launch into the market, that's why it's important for you to launch, right? Once you launch, you understand from the market, hey, what's needed. We discussed so many projects, so many products that didn't work out, right?
Mm.
Many of these companies didn't stop. All of them are still live, right? Today, you see all these companies, they probably shut down that one particular product line, or that product evolved into something else, right? We just spoke and stopped at that, but they're all evolving, right? For these companies, maybe they've shut down. We discussed a lot of these examples that shut down, but many of them they probably paused and think of the iPhone itself, right? Think of the 3G that launched to today, the iPhone 14. Where has the phone come up to? Right? Evolution has come. In between, you would have seen some of these that didn't work out, right? They would have just scrapped that and they moved on to the next one.
Okay, okay.
So we have one final question from Govind. He's asking, should we show startup experience as a project in resume while applying?
Going to be very honest, I think it depends on the startup experience. Today, I've seen so many resumes, and being a startup founder is overrated. I think every college student is a co-founder of something today. So, as long as you've done material impact, please do mention it. But if it is something that you just launched with a website, I mean, I'll take a stance on this, right? Many of them might say that, hey, yeah, it's great, please do add it. But my stance is that if you've done material impact, then please add it. Don't just add it for the sake of, hey, okay, I've been a co-founder in the past. That's how I personally would approach this. Yeah, hope that
So
helps. Let me know. Yeah.
And one more question is, have any online platform or any resource or any book that discuss only about the failure product, what they failure and how they meet against success? Some kind of factor they discuss any platform, online form or any website, so we could constantly update about it, the knowledge.
Yeah, yeah, I think there are a couple of them. I haven't followed this too much, but I know there's one thing that is there for checking out all the Google. I put it in the chat section. It's called Killed by Google. This shows you all
Mm,
the products by Google that were launched and killed. Like that,
mm.
I think someone has actually done a deep dive on all the product failures. If you search that online, I don't remember the name of the platform, but I do remember someone had launched a very, very extensive project on this.
Okay, 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 okay.
so
I don't
uh,
find it right now. Yeah.
so I extend my gratitude towards you on behalf of ESL IIT Guwahati and all audience present in the session for such a great session, and like it was very interactive, like, and the examples which you gave were like very good. So I wish you all the best for your future and incredible journey ahead.
Thanks so
Thank
much,
you.
Shivam. This was amazing. Thanks so much for hosting me and everyone who tuned in. Um, Hope all of y'all got something to take away from this, but all the best for whatever you do next. One thing like Shivani mentioned, as Shravani mentioned, that hey, case studies is something that a lot of people struggle with. So in case, and I've been getting this question a lot, there are a couple of resources that I shared with you, but I've also been working on 2, 3 live case studies. That's if you'll want to work on that, and if you have bandwidth, happy to work on one with you. But reach out if you have bandwidth, right? So you can message me on Twitter or LinkedIn, but message only if you have bandwidth. And if you have like week or 10 days to work on it, you can work on a PRD, because this PRD is something you can showcase in your interviews, right? Go in depth, but yeah, message only whenever you have bandwidth, and happy to guide you through some of that. So I'll share the case study with you, work on it for 8, 10 days, get back, and I'm happy to share feedback. Okay. Thanks so much, folks. Lovely to chat with all of y'all, and all the best. You can reach out to me on Twitter, LinkedIn. Will get back to you. And yeah, all the best. Have a great, great evening. Thanks, Shiva.
Thank you, sir.